Hey, well, the holidays are busier than ever, and you need comfort and style for all occasions. Mack Weldon is here for you with their daily wear system. For 20% off your first order, visit mackweldon.com/Bob and enter promo code Bob. That's mackweldon.com/Bob, promo code Bob for 20% off. Mack Weldon. Get it right this holiday season.
And here's another word from one of our sponsors.
What do you want to eat tonight? Maybe you want a home-cooked favorite but don't feel like going to the store? Or you want something exciting and new, but it would be great to stay in tonight? DoorDash connects you with everything you want, whenever and however you want it. Get 25% off and zero delivery fees on your first order of $15 or more when you download the DoorDash app and enter code SAGET. S-A-G-E-T. Saget. All right, everybody. Bob Saget's here for you. We are in that pre-holiday mode, a la mode, which is ice cream on your tree, which melts. It's not as good as just having a beautiful ornament and flocking. That's as dirty as I'm going to get, because my guest today is Nate Bargatze, who is, I admire so much. He's 42 years old. He's been around doing stand-up for, a couple decades, and he is incredibly special and has two amazing specials. One is The Greatest Average American. It's on Netflix. It's out right now. It's really fantastic. It's just great. And The Tennessee Kid is another one that's on Netflix. He's done a lot of stuff, a lot of stand-up, and it's just, he's really quite great, quite special. He'll talk about stuff that everybody can relate to, and that is the job of a great comedian. So you can catch his stuff. You can go to natebargatze.com. You can listen to his Nateland podcast, which is out every Wednesday. He's quite a gentleman, and I'm so glad that I have him as my guest. You know what to do. Rate, review, subscribe. Go to the YouTube page, youtube.com/Bob Saget, and I will be here for you. So let's welcome my guest, who I don't know, you'll say needs no introduction, but why not give him one? You got to see him out on the road. Do yourself a favor and buy tickets to him right now. Go to natebargatze.com and go see this wonderful muse, this really intelligent, smart, great guy. It's a little bit of a man crush, but I'm over it. I'm going to go see my wife right now. Here it comes. Well, not right now, because I got to talk to Nate. Here comes Nate Bargatze. Thanks. Look at you.
Hi.
Look at you. How are you?
What's up, buddy?
Not much. I'm really happy that you're doing this and I'm talking to you.
I am too, man. I'm very excited.
That's really nice. I appreciate that, because here I am, Now, first, let's go through this. Tell me, forgive me, have we met?
So, I mean, just every day. We've met so many. No, we met once at Zany's. And
in Nashville.
It was very quick in Nashville, and it was a few years ago. So it was very quick, but you were very nice. Yeah, I think you gave me your number, and I was like, I never called it because I was like, I can't, But you're like, oh, if you ever need anything, just let me know.
That wasn't my number, actually. That was a dealer. I made a mistake. So
yeah, you thought that guy's gonna hit me up. He's got some good stuff.
No, I followed you. I don't give my number out to anybody, but what you're about, what I've always thought I was about until people labeled me wrong, was that I feel like I know you, That's when you know you're doing it right. That's when.
Well, I think people are like that with you. Like you're you, like you're one that when someone asks, like, people ask you like, how are they? And like with you, it's like, you're like, yeah, that's him. You're seeing it.
But then people don't know if I'm like a clean cut dad, or I'm this guy that does obscenities for no reason, which is not true. I don't do them for no reason. I had a reason when I did them. Yeah.
Well, it's fun. I look at your act as very fun. And like the point of it is to be fun. Like, David Tell. David Tell is very fun. You just want to enjoy it. It's not this, sometimes like even, with Chappelle stuff, it's like, it's great, but it's like something that can be too much. You're like, all right, dude, like I'm just trying to like zone out here. And that's like your comedy. It's like, just be like, hey, we're here having fun. It's a good time. Don't worry about it. You're trying to take people's mind off. They have enough going on in their life. They don't need me to also pound on them.
Well, it's interesting. You and I come from the exact same cloth right now. I'm different than I was in like 2007 when I was on Entourage and I had my real dirty, a lot of F-bombs in a HBO special. And I wouldn't do that now, but that's what I did then. I was like, the joke was, here's a clean cut guy that looks like your dentist and that he thinks he's badass. And he's not. And he's just doing that because I call out things that hurt me the most, that upset me the most, and then I'll make a joke about it. And then people now, they look at it out of context. They're going, how could he do that? But it's because those are terrible things that I would bring up. You do something that I just have to know the genesis. Because when you do your podcast, which is a really good podcast, by the way.
Thank you. It's just, it's just some dumb guys.
Well, that's what I mean. It's not, because that's what we need. Like you're saying, I'm silly. I'm trying to be silly. I try to do intelligent stuff. I try to make a point, but just so people know, the Nate Land podcast is pretty much everywhere. How long you been doing it?
A little over a year now. So just plowing away. Yeah. Because you've been doing yours for.
I don't know what it is. It's right before COVID hit. Yeah. So I'm like a year and a half or something.
Yeah, a year and a half. Yeah.
And then I did 2 episodes and was going to be in studio. And then one day, I did 2 episodes. And then they bring the podcast board over my house. Won't be seeing you.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do what you wanted to do. And everything I've read, your philosophies were exactly in line, which is for us to have fun, which is not first, but it goes in tune with making people feel better.
Yeah. It's about the audience. Like there's I think I've noticed, like, sometimes it can happen in movies and stuff. Like, they make it for them and not the audience. Well, the audience is the only reason I'm even getting to know you, is because this audience chose to watch me. So they decide everything.
Yeah.
You have to be, there's like a 50-50. I got to be good enough for them, but I'm trying to win them over. I always preach a big, like, never take anything for granted. Like, it's insane that we've tricked people into having a career like this. Like, we're just using words. It doesn't make sense. And so you got to take, like, if you ever catch yourself like taking it for granted, it's like, that's when it's bad. That's when it gets real bad. And then you go the other way, and you got to every time be that audience. And you're like, I cannot believe y'all like this. You know, when you're up there and you're like, I don't know why y'all are even here. This is insane.
But your self-effacing attitude toward life is a humility that most comedians don't have. And you're putting it right out there. So, and you have since your very beginnings, and it's really refreshing. And you're a wordsmith. You're talking about things that are silly, not to me. I love hearing about, I've got some weird new things because I'm all new. I had to be, because I had to change more than just my comedy. I mean, I'm still doing the kind of stuff I do, but I'm not as blue. I don't want to be, but I so am impressed and just really influenced. I'm influenced by a lot of younger comedians now. So I've been stealing their stuff. So I'm doing some of your bits.
That's great. Yeah. You can have it all, man. You know.
No, I can't.
I'll send my new stuff over.
Yeah, that's what I want. I want the new stuff. All your stuff about going to school when you were a kid, I'm taking that because I'm not from Tennessee. I mean, it'll be hilarious.
Yeah, it'd be great. You got to be, like, about being clean. Like, so I started in New York or Chicago, then New York. New York was where I basically learned. I was like there for like 8.5 years.
What clubs were your home clubs in New York?
When I first moved there, Boston Comedy Club. So I moved there in 2004. And so I was, and there's Boston Comedy Club and then New York Comedy, it all kind of shifts. Like, you'd always be like kind of down in the Village, and then you were in the Midtown, and then the Carolines was a gigantic part of my career.
Right.
And, and then it went to the Cellar and all that stuff, and the Stand's amazing. Like, there are all these clubs that are amazing, but I would always have to be clean because I was clean, and I'd be doing these shows that are uncensored and they're edgy, and they're, it'd be 1 a.m. and people are drunk. And like, so, but I was like, all right, well, I got to learn how to do these clean jokes and make them not realize that I'm being like, you're trying to be, kind of, I don't want it to be like, oh, here's the clean guy. You just want them to not even notice. And you just kind of have to learn a rhythm or what you're saying to be like, it doesn't feel like, because clean gets a label of like cheesy and corny and stuff like that. But you don't have to be like that. I don't think, it doesn't, it's just, you want to be funny. And that's the main thing.
Right. You have to be whatever you are.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
you do change. I mean, when you go through, every 7 years, I'm kind of a different thing. I mean, it's like I'm a weirdo, but you're 42 years old, and that's the secret to life, by the way, according to the Motorcycler's Guide to the Galaxy. Did you know that?
No.
The Secret to Life. It was a famous thing, and it's a book. It was a series on PBS, I think, and that's the secret to life. At 42, you figure some things out for some reason.
Oh, really? That age?
Well, does it feel that way?
Yeah.
That's
it does. It's I remember a long time ago. This is just through comedy, but I think I'm feeling a lot, even just my regular life. Like you feel like you've gotten smarter or something, or you're like you see through things more. You don't believe everybody as much.
Right.
You're kind of like, I don't know, but I remember a long time when Louis said something about like you don't get good at comedy till 20 years in. And when he said it, I'm at like 8 or 9, and you're almost like, all right, dude, like don't say something that's like, so 20 years, that's because you're at 20 now, that's when you're good.
I'm 65. In about 20 more years, you're going to have this down.
Yeah. But now I'm at 19. I'll be at 19 in January. So you're like, I get it. I'm a much different comic. It's not like you're bad at that point, but I don't think you have your voice. I was just talking to somebody. I think you start learning your rhythms. You start learning like how to say something funny, and then anything you say is funny. And then, so now your world of material opens up more than it's ever opened up, because you can technically talk about anything, and you can know that like I'm should be good enough now to know how to be very funny with almost anything.
Well, you're 20 years ahead of me because I'm just getting there now. It's been.
Well, you got a lot. You had a different. I've just done stand up. Like
it's a giant capital just and underline, because you're great. I mean, that's why I gave you my number. I wasn't hitting on you.
Yeah.
I am a talent whore. That's basically what I am.
I
don't give my number to many people. So
I appreciate it. No, it's what I like us talking. Like I think there's a lot of us that are like very into still the craft, and we love the idea of jokes, and we love making people laugh, and it's still amazing that we can make people laugh. So like all of us, I like us talking because it's like we're going with the right mindset. It's not about moves or like kind of the Hollywood game. It's like what got us here was stand up. That's why I'll never turn my back on stand up.
People got us here. But you were funny at what age? I would say 9 is my guess.
Yeah. I guess I was funny like your whole life. I would do stuff. My dad's a magician.
I know, and a clown.
Yeah, and a clown. So I would
I know. I did a deep dive. I know you better than your dad. I am your father.
Yeah. Oh, it's a pleasure. And look, it makes sense now.
Yeah. And that my follow-up would always be just culturally. And that's the story of how I met your mother. That way I get that little that residual. I get a residual for that.
Every time. So I think back, younger, I was like being funny and like, it's like did you ever have like, I never like was like, I'm going to be a stand-up comedian. Like, I don't think I ever had that.
I didn't either. And I still don't think that.
I know. I don't either. You know what? I think you shouldn't think it. I think my act's garbage because I think that's another sign that if you don't, I'm not saying it is, but you need to feel like you're like, it's got to get better, dude. I'm not. And if you lose that feeling, then then again, that's another one that's like, it's over. If you're like, dude, I'm the greatest, well, then you're done. You should always feel like, I got to get better. I need to be better.
And those are the people that I lose attraction for. Like there's people that won't say who they are that came onto the scene that I saw them years ago on Letterman, or I would see them on Conan, and I would go, wow, they're really good. They're very confident, and they learn how to walk the stage, and they do that trick. And it's tricks. There are literally skill sets that you can learn, and you hold the mic and you look like you're loose and your body's loose, and you do a lot of, weird mugging, and some of them are incredibly popular, and a couple of them are actually great at it. They're great and they're funny, and it serves what they do. But a lot of people, I just care about gut funny. So that is to me what's so special about you. And I say this probably on my comedian people that I get to talk to on here, because we're both, living our lives. You're on the road, you're touring like a banshee.
Yeah, this is my time. I got to get after it right now. So,
well, it's the rain check tour, which is,
yeah.
And no one else tried to coin that. That's pretty damn smart.
We came up with it, and then it worked out, and yeah. So
you could
I was always worried there's gonna be a lot of that. Like I was trying to think like I can't do something and I didn't want to do something on the nose of COVID. Like I don't want to be like like I don't even do COVID jokes now. But it's like there's a point where you're like, it did its point. I did only my special because I shot it I was outside.
Right.
So, like I acknowledged it and tried to do it in a very down the middle way. Just, again, me being dumb. If you make fun of yourself, you can really make fun of you.
That's the key. That's the first thing Rodney Dangerfield told me. And then you watched his stand-up and you felt really bad for him because he really got no respect. He really didn't. I have a lot of stories. But I'll tell you one before we're done, but you're doing something, and I admire that you do clean, because that's how you want to communicate and that's who you are. And it allows anybody to come see you. If I do shows sometimes where there's kids and I change the show, and then I can't do all the innuendo and I can't talk about my lower parts, which are important to me.
Yeah.
The older I get.
How am I gonna?
Were you ever in that area? Did you ever talk about stuff like that, even when you started?
When I first started in New York, there'd be times in New York where I would do late shows. I would never really had sex jokes. I would, I could maybe I would have had one. I don't know. I would maybe curse. I'd be cursing about like parking. Like it was like I'm just trying to, because it's 2 a.m. and these people are. And you're just starting. It never really like worked. And then, so I was never writing that way. That's a big thing when I started. It helped me since I didn't think I wasn't going to write a sex joke. Like my mind has never gone to that point. So like, I don't even think about that world in that way. Not saying I won't ever, I don't know, but I just don't ever, that's not like where I think to write. And so it's like, I think some ways the way you start is kind of how you end up like, that world. I'm best, one of my best friends is Big J Okerson. And he's filthy. He talks about, me and him used to talk about jokes, and they would go, because we'd be like, it'd be interesting to see me and him be dirty. He's dirty and I'm clean, just to see where we go with the joke. And his always ended up, someone was having sex, someone was doing something. Right. And then mine would just be like, why is the traffic light not turning? It's something another dumb way. But it's like, it's just kind of the way that your brain thinks, and you just go after that, you go in that direction. And I love that families come out. That's become a really big deal. I have a lot of dads that come. I have a 9-year-old daughter, and I have a lot of dads that show up with their teenage daughters, and they're like, you're the only thing I can do with them, because they're teenage daughters and they don't want to be with their dad. And they don't, and so they're like, we watch you and we get to come, and they're great. People want to do stuff as a family. That was your Full House. That's the thing that they've lost with TV, is they're separating the families. They're making shows for men, for women. The kids get their own show. They don't make a show that's like, hey, everybody can watch this.
And America's Funniest Home Videos was meant. There's
no videos. It's the funniest show that's ever.
You programmed your life.
You can watch it every night. Our daughter's 9.
I used to.
Yeah. You did a lot.
It was a disease. I had to go to a program.
You had to get out.
You're seeing people get hit in the nuts.
You were like the perfect host for that. And that show there's nothing funnier than that show. And everybody can watch it. It's very relatable. And that is so important. And I think a lot of that is being lost now.
I couldn't agree more. And with that, what I'm proud of where I'm at now on my journey, as we talk in those weird terms, or I do, is I am now, I'll have an audience that is, 17 years old with a fake ID all the way to death. I've had people almost die in my audience because they're so old. They're like a tree. But it's sons and daughters that watched Full House or the video show with their parents, bringing them to my stand-up, because my stand-up is now not a shock value thing. It's like you were saying, whatever you say is funny. I never had airplane material, but because of these past 2 years, my life's changed. We've all rebooted our way of thinking. We're all trying to reset And your gift is to give that humor and bring the audience together. And that's what I'm doing. That's why I love it. So I've got more comedy music than I ever had. It's PG, I'm like a PG-13 act. Yeah. I don't know. I don't even like to drop F-bombs or use it as a verb. I try not to.
I always thought even back then you were a PG-13 act, but no one was doing that. And so even when you were doing Full House and people were like surprised when they would see you, but I think you were just PG-13, like almost like you actually grew into your act, was like, now it's not even that dirty. Like, but
that's what's weird, right?
Yeah. Back then it was very dirty, or it would have felt very dirty. And then you actually caught up. I'd imagine this is what happens. You catch up, and now they're so dirty. And so then you're like, oh, I guess I got to go. If you still want that feeling, well, now you got to turn it up a lot. Because then, there's open micers that are saying that every joke's an abortion joke. It's like just everything's the most filthiest, dirtiest, or whatever it is. And
I don't like prop comics that do abortion jokes.
Is that where you draw the line?
I don't like anything that's visual.
Yeah, they really paint the picture. You're like, all right.
They go to Toys R Us and pick up stuff. I'm not going to go there.
They make you go, did we just watch a live abortion? Like, was it? They don't know. They're walking that line very close.
Well, these are the worst things that happen to people, and this is also what divides a lot of people. And I'm sick of contributing to that. And I did stuff years ago in specials, meaning, a couple years on the road to get to a special. I would never do, but I know where it came from at the time. It came from, I knew somebody who went through something terrible, and whether it be death or being violated, I would not talk about that circumstance, which probably would have been an evolution of me, made me smarter, made me more in that, I don't know, Bill Hicks kind of way of thinking. But I would just get to the joke quickly, but it came from a place of being so sad of the darkness of things. And so then I would come up with some quippy thing, and it came off the way I don't like looking at myself. Do you watch your specials? Can you do that? You edit them, I'm sure you're in there.
The Tennessee Kid, I'll be honest with you, I gave it to my opener and let him edit it, because I was like, I don't know if I could watch. Like, I just couldn't. I went through it, and then I was like, I don't know. I was like, I don't even like it. Or you're just like, you're looking at too much. And my opener was with me, my buddy Brian Bates, who's on our podcast, Nate, and I was like, just go through it and like, let's see what you just see what you think is the best jokes. And I looked at him with him after he was done, but it was like just nice to have someone that knew your act very much and can go through it. And it's just a different, it's not you just looking at it, because you'll be like, well, why did I do that? What am I doing? And you're like, overdo it. But the other thing you were talking about, like selling those jokes, like I remember when I first started, I would do jokes about my wife, and I was telling them in a way where the audience would be like, dude, why are you married? You hate this woman. And you're like, all right, well, that's not how I'm supposed to be saying this, because that's not the case. So then you got to learn, how do I say this? And there's love under it. And there's like, where it's like, yeah, I'm not divorcing my wife. You're just, I don't talk about the good things that happens to us, because that's not funny. You talk about the fights you have and stuff like that. And there's a way to do it where it's, it's like people relate to it. And they're like, that's you. I'll have people tell me that when they get in fights, they will say something like from my act to their wife or their husband, and refuses the fight. And you're like, that's the point. It's like, you're just trying to be like, every fight doesn't need to be this big kind of crazy fight.
Well, that's to be outside of it. You're a therapist for them. You're actually,
you try to like, just, you give them like, you're just like, dude, we're all, I think people feel, they feel alone. And so now it's like, you got to just you talk about your regular life and kids, and it's related. Like the most you get is like, it's like, I'm going through, someone will be like, I'm 42. We have a 9-year-old, like, and they just like, it hits so hard to them. And then the older ones are like, that's how you were, you just they got to find a way to be able to connect to you. You're like my dad, you're like my friend. You just want to be that guy.
Yeah. And you're making it human. And then that allows you to get silly with it. And then they'll go there with you.
I can start like, I had one of the old jokes, like a lot of jokes I would do, I would like set the situation of the story, and that's real. But then I can just say whatever I think everybody's thinking around that. Well, that can all be made up. And and the story's not true. That's what I think they're thinking. Right. And so you can have a lot of fun with that. and it still has a very authentic feel because you get to do this one, like the first part's kind of like, this is the truth, try to make it as funny as you can. Now here's the second part that's like, I can be as goofy and silly as I want to be because it's kind of an imaginary world.
Yeah. So now, did you, like a lot of us, think of yourself as an outsider? Growing up, and even, I mean, if you're doing observations about your life, you're watching it, you see your life kind of from it, you can tell people about it, but if you're watching somebody at a light, or you're in a store with somebody, or you have an exchange, you do wonderful stories. I mean, I think you probably are a really good actor because you do yourself talking to another person and the odd things they say to you. Do you feel like that makes you, do you look at yourself as an outsider to,
like growing up?
Let's start there. Cause I think
well, growing up, I would say maybe I was, and I didn't know it. And I don't think I've ever known it. So like there could have been, I was like in a lot of circles, but I was a guy that'd be a lot. I mean, I won homecoming game my senior year, but I didn't play sports. But it was like, I guess it just was like, I became super charming to like, the girls not in my class, the class under me loved me. And so they all voted for me. And, but it was like, yeah, I mean, you'd be kind of an outsider, but if I look back on it, but I think I was just like my own thing. There was none of realizing this. I'm just trying to think on it now. I'd say moving, when I left Nashville and started comedy, I felt like an outsider because I was in Chicago. And then it was like the first time, like, I grew up, Southern Baptist Christian, like typical Southern upbringing.
Church on every Sunday?
Yeah, every Sunday, Wednesday. And then, so when I first moved to Chicago, and then I was like, meet people that like don't believe in God. And I'm like, I didn't even know people did that. Like, I wasn't around like Catholics. Like my parents were Catholic, they were raised Catholic, but then we were raised Baptist. But there was all this kind of stuff that you're like, I didn't like get any of it, And then so I was like, oh, so I always felt like an outsider. And then I would see Southern comics, like when I moved to New York, I would see Southern comics, and they'd always just trash the South. And I was like, why would you don't give these people what they want? Like they hate us or this is what you think. I'm not saying they do. But, you think like they already think we're dumb, dude. Like, or they think they hate it. Like, just don't make fun of the South. Like, at least be on the side of the South. Maybe you can, if they laugh at you because they think you're dumb, then that's fine. But don't be on it going like, y'all are so dumb. The South is so dumb and backwards and blah, and blame all them. You're like, no, be them, dude. Everybody's technically Southern. I mean, you go outside of any major city, we're all the same.
I couldn't agree more. And I've been playing, the South opened up for stand-up almost more than anywhere else. So
we don't believe in COVID. So go ahead.
It doesn't exist.
It's that's the greatest thing. It doesn't. It didn't hit us. So
I was Nashville. Zanies was one of the first places I went to when I was able to go back, because you can't get it in Zanies.
You can't.
That's where DL
got it. He got it. He took it and then never gave it back. So
and what a great tape. That could have gone on America's Funniest Home Videos when he passed out.
He blamed Nashville. He blamed, like, he was like, I go down to Nashville. You're like, you brought it to us. We didn't even, like, it wasn't, we didn't have it. You brought, like, he was like touring and then like did it. Anyway,
was there a vaccine then? Probably not. No, I don't think there was. No. Yeah. I don't connect a lot of times with a lot of comedians, but I have a lot of people's numbers because I guess I've given, I gave you my number.
After your show, you're like,
I'm really lonely. Did you like my act? Here's my number. And DL, I texted the next day because I don't want him. I like DL. I've known him forever. Yeah. So are you okay? And he's laughing. You're like he says, Bob, you're one of the few comics I know that was concerned because everybody goes about their business. I care about people.
Yeah. You don't want someone to be sick. I mean, you're like, why would you, I was like, that's why I love starting in New York, was the idea that, when you first start in New York, it's all about the jokes. It's not about the business. It's about like, you're just like, how do I get these jokes better? Or you get a new joke and I always love that. And then when I moved to LA, it's like, you felt like it started getting, it gets a little more business. And you do need that. New York has a problem. I always would say New York's like your uncle that's like, just get better. Don't worry about anybody else. Just do better. But LA is like your crazy aunt that's like, well, you should chase your dreams. And you do need both of those things.
Right.
You get stuck in New York and then you just end up like being like, you're at the clubs and you have no reality outside of what you do.
Yeah.
And so you need to go to LA, and like, you need some of that freedom and some of that, like, New York, when podcasts first started, all New York. I mean, I was living there and they're like, you gotta do a dumb podcast. What are you, a loser? All this stuff. Now they all do them because LA was like, you should start a podcast. They were nice about it. And so there's gotta be a mix of that. But I love like New York, like it's just about being about the jokes. It's like, it's just about, I don't know, it's just so personal. And you don't feel like the person's trying to get something from you. They're just being like, how's that joke doing? You're like, oh, it's going great. You're like, all right. Yeah.
And then once in a while, they'll give you something. I toured with a buddy, Mike Young, for 10, 12 years. And he'll say, why don't you add this to that? And I go, whoa, because I don't sit in a room with 5 people like some people do. And I probably should. And people do that. They, help me think of stuff, and
no, I think it's better when you do it yourself. Like, it's like, you're always going to be yourself. You know how to say your stuff. Guys, how many tags do you get? And you're like, that's very funny, but I would never be able to say that. Like, you got to find a balance. And that's what's good when you get someone to go on the road with you. And then people know and that's when you learn your voice. You have your voice more. It's then people can kind of be like, they give you a tag and you're like, this hour I'm doing now is the most tags I've ever taken from people. Cause it's like, they kind of fit and you're like, oh, that is a good. And one of them,
because they know your voice.
Because they know your voice. One's my buddy from high school. Like he's given me a couple tags. He's my tour manager now. But
so he helped. Did he help you with Homecoming?
He was there. Yeah, he was the big pusher.
I don't have friends I have friends from back then, but I left Norfolk, Virginia when I was 14. So I don't have the constant that you had. You had both parents together?
Yeah. And I mean, I still talk to my buddies that that I grew up with. I mean, my tour manager is we've been my buddy since I was 14.
What a gift, Nate. That also forms who you are as a person. And that with a little bit of salt and pepper of IQ and a little bit of brain bandwidth, and then being funny. Holy shit, being funny.
Yeah, it makes you, I always think a problem some people have, like when they start getting successful and they get money, is like they don't have any regular people in their life. And you got to have, like, if you're like, hey, you want to go to Disneyland and it's Tuesday and you need someone that goes, I got to work today, dude. Like, what are you, crazy? And you're like, that's right. I'm lucky that I get to go to Disneyland at 2. Like, you can take stuff for granted. You get to a point, you're like, you want to fly to Cabo tomorrow? And then you're like, everybody wants to go. And you need like your buddy that's a plumber. He's like, I mean, we're planning on that on our 20th anniversary. Like, I can't just fly to Cabo. Like, you got to be reminded that you're like, yeah, that is right. Because it's crazy that you get to do this stuff and you kind of get put back in place.
Well, it means you're not a very good friend that you didn't take your plumber friend to Cabo. That's what it sounds like to me, that you're actually a bastard. You're not nice to your plumber.
He didn't have the money. He wasn't that good of a plumber, to be honest. And
that's the truth.
Yeah. I took my electrical guy instead.
I took my Maytag repair person, but I only see him every 5 years because it's a very reliable machine.
He shows up just on the days you're going to Cabo. He goes, that's crazy, dude. You know what I'm doing? I'm going to Cabo today. Do you want to go? I've never even been to Cabo, so I just hear people. I don't even know where it's at. I just hear people say it.
You just go down. You just go south.
From LA.
Yeah. Or you go south and then from where you are, south and then a dog leg right.
Yes. Okay.
But
I've heard about it.
Now, how long you've been married? I don't want to get into your personal life, but
she's dead.
That's now you're talking my kind of stuff.
Yeah. I always like to tell people after the show, they're like, is that real? I'm like, I'm not married. I don't have any children.
Right.
You're like, this is all made up.
Well, it's weird. Rodney Dangerfield would say, my wife, man, my wife. Now, he got remarried older in life and his first wife passed away. It was very sad, but he was doing wife jokes. I mean, if I had a loss like that, I could never do anything like that.
Maybe that's how what helped him. Like his wife.
It did. He was a machine, a joke machine.
Fun. I read his book. One of the funniest books I've ever read in my life. Like that's almost how I knew about Rodney. Obviously you just know who he is. And the books was the first time I really got to like kind of look at a bunch of his material and like see it. And I remember his voice is so distinct. And so you read it in his voice and you're like, dude, this stuff is so funny. And it was just such a great book. Like he's he was, he seemed like a guy that you're like, would y'all see him just pop in and stuff like at clubs?
Well, he became a friend of mine when I was like 24. I was at the Comedy Store in La Jolla, and he just walked in with two women on his arms.
Yeah.
And he was supposed to go to a spa and clean out. He says, I can't do it, man. No coke, no pot, no pills. Can't do it. And then he goes, I saw you on Merv Griffin. You're very funny, man. You got a Jewish head. You never stop thinking. You're never going to be happy. And I went, the joke is a new friend, somebody that gets me. And so he was it doing
when you met him? So was he like as big as he was then, or was he like coming up?
He was, he had already become a movie star.
Yeah.
But he was 58 when he did Caddyshack.
Wow.
So that's the beginning of his big career. 58. Yeah. He does
50.
Caddyshack, and then he does the one that I was friends with him during when he shot Back to School, because I introduced him to Sam Kinison. So I met Sam in Houston. And then Rodney said, Sam, man. And then I was on the Young Comedian special, the first one Rodney hosted. And Sam got like 11 minutes on the air on the final special on HBO. And I got like 3.5. I said, Rodney, I did my guitar stuff. I did so well. He goes, I couldn't help it, man. Sam killed. I went, I did too, Rodney. Yeah, but it's Sam, man. So it's funny. He would give, and he was like an uncle to me. I was close with him. So yeah. I would go and he would go into the clubs. Yeah, he'd come to the Comedy Store, the Laugh Factory.
Was the hang like, so, I mean, you're not going to know the hang that much like now, but it's like when you see, like back then, like, was it like you told you, I mean, you have so many guys that are some of the most famous comics of still to this day.
Right.
Did you feel that around then? Like, you're all just starting? Are you like?
No, I knew. I mean, when you were born, in 1979, I had been in LA 1 year at the Comedy Store, and I became one of the hosts there instead of going to grad school at USC for film. And one of my first MCs was Letterman, and Jay Leno was going up. And my first night, Pryor came up. The first night I was on the lineup, Pryor came up on stage later on, and he was the king of the room. It was very clear.
Yeah.
And one of the best stand-ups to watch work on stuff, because he would take a bullet with stuff. He'd bring up some notes sometimes, or he would talk and just try a couple things out. And then if they didn't work, he would, depending on the mood he was in or whatever was going on in his life, he would just take his time with it, or just go, well, maybe that's not funny. And then he'd try it the next couple nights and fix it.
Yeah.
As a comic does.
Were they calling in spots? I mean, Richard Pryor doesn't have to, but like.
So no, I mean, I feel bad because I don't really know I'm going to want to do it until right before.
Oh, yeah.
So I'll know, like, I'm out to dinner and I'll say, look, is there any, and I don't do more than 7 minutes. I do it because I came up with something and I can't get it out of my head, and I want to work on it, but I don't like to take anybody's time.
Yeah, no, I'm fine with the bumping. Actually, like I defend bumping in the fact that, like, I got bumped for Chappelle. I got bumped for everybody.
Right.
And
I
like,
got bumped a lot too.
Yeah, when you hear younger comics, you're like, oh, I'm getting bumped. And you're like, how about you get to watch Dave Chappelle on stage and maybe go watch? And that's like, I learned the most from that. And then I had to go up at 2 a.m. when it didn't matter because I was garbage and I should have gone up at 2 a.m. So you go watch all the comics that you can go watch. And so I'm a fan. I'm not saying like, it's like bumping, like it stinks if you're the younger comic, but it's like, just take advantage of it, man. Like you want to be the one that gets to bump people. When you see it, you're like, I hope one day I can go and just, they let me go up. Like, I think I'm still trying to chase that. Like, you're still,
you have no problem with that. I mean, you're
well, it's like, that feeling that you want to, where you feel like no one's going to, there's a respect, when Chappelle would come in and I was handing out flyers at the Boston Comedy Club, and he would come up, and would there be 8 people in the room? And then he would go on, and then we would go outside and be like, hey, Chappelle's on stage, and we let him go in for free. My buddy Dustin Chafin was like running the room, and so we just, and then it'd be, I mean, it would be crazy, dude. Within 10 minutes, you have 150 people in this room.
Because they text people.
I don't know if there's phones, but just people walking by. They were like, Chappelle Show was on at this point. So he's the biggest star in the world. And I remember telling one couple, I always remember them. I told them, I said, Chappelle's inside if you want to perform. And they're like, is he? And I go, yeah. He's right there. And they go, I don't believe you. I was like, we're at a comedy club. Why would I lie about this? And they go, did you ever go to Boston?
All the time. I mean, I'm there in a little bit. You're on
Boston Comedy Club in New York.
No.
So they had these 4 steps in a window. And I was like, go look in that window. If he's not on, just leave. And they go, no. And they left. And I think about those people every day. Like they wanted to watch Chappelle. It's not like they didn't want to, but they didn't believe me that he was there. And so they didn't go see him. And they could have went to watch Chappelle. That was right before he quit.
Right.
And I think about those people every day,
You just don't stop thinking about them?
I know. I just want to go, what, I think about a lot. There's a lot of things I think about people. You're just like, it's very weird things. And you're like, why did y'all not go in? Why did you not look in the window?
So do you have a neurotic gene? Will you spin something and keep thinking about it?
Yeah, I guess so. I don't ever think of it in these terms like that kind of, but it would be that. Yeah. I've started to really there's a lot of stuff I do where you're like, when you go to a hotel, do you unpack and put everything where it should be or no?
Yes, I do, unless I'm in a hurry to go do a sound check or something.
Yeah. I'm the same way. Like, it's like, you kind of like, you want to get like, even if you're there, I kind of wrap my head around, like, am I going to be in this hotel for less than 24 hours? Then I just kind of I still properly try to take it out. But I've never been just there's other comics that are just jamming stuff in. I feel like Bert Kreischer just has a trash bag and he just throws stuff in.
Man doesn't wear a shirt. It doesn't really matter what happens to his clothes. But I like things in order. That makes me Danny Tanner. That's why I was able to play the character easily, because I had an anal retentive bent. I was kind of raised, pick up your things, Bobby, my mother. Don't say that, Bob. Don't say that. And that's why I would say that, but
would you do spots during when you were taping Full House?
All the time. I was also going through a difficult time. I was losing a sister. So I would go and do Full House all day. And then I would go do the Comedy Store. And then I would go see her at Cedars-Sinai, the hospital not far from there. And she was really sick, and then she'd be asleep. So then I'd go to like the Viper Room with my nephew, which was a hardcore bar. And then I'd go back and see my sister. So I was all messed up, just trying to deal with stuff. So I was doing Full House all the time. I wanted to go release the other part of me. And I think the other part over extremed a little bit because of that. Not that I liked being the father and a good father. I love being a father now. I mean, two of my daughters just were visiting and left after Thanksgiving, and I miss them terribly. I mean, I don't care now that most kids are living with their parents till the kids are 50. If my daughters did that, I'd be okay. Because
we tell our 9-year-old, we're like, if you want to live with us forever, that's totally fine.
You got 2 kids?
No, I just have one. I have a 9-year-old daughter. So
and you like her?
Big fan.
You're a fan.
Big fans.
It's amazing how much you love them, isn't it?
It's one of the things that I heard that always stuck with me too. I opened for Greg Giraldo once.
I loved him.
And he was, and I never saw him like when I would see him in the cellar. I mean, right when I got passed at the Comedy Cellar, I remember I'd go, one of my jobs was to go there, and it'd be, if he doesn't show up, I'll go up. And if he does, then I don't go up. And because it was like when he would be back and forth between like on stuff, not on stuff. And so I never got to see him a ton, but I went and opened for him, and we were driving. It was Pat Dixon was like featuring, if he's a comic, and then Giraldo. So we're driving in my car because I had a car. And so we're driving in our car. Giraldo was just kind of sitting in the back, just kind of talking about comedy and stuff like that. And I'll never forget, like, me and my wife were married. I guess we're at the point of probably like thinking about having kids. And I asked him at a truck stop, and I go, is having kids, like, does that hurt your like career and stuff? And he's standing over the hood of my car, and he just looks at me, he goes, it's the greatest thing that's ever happened to me in my life, is having kids, because I love them. He goes, I love it. And then that was it. And this was obviously then a few months later, he dies. But like, that's always stuck with me. Because even a guy that could be going through so much was just like, dude, it's the best thing ever. And it was like, we're at some weird truck stop in Jersey. Like, you know, it's like this, it's not a setting for like a nice moment, but it was like just this sweet kind of thing. And I was like, oh, that dude loves his kid, you know.
And that's a guy that shouldn't be gone. That's a guy.
That's a guy. Yeah. And I watched him. Then that night I went and like I hosted and I went and sat in the crowd and I was just like, golly, dude, this guy is unreal.
Yeah, he was like a machine gun.
Oh, yeah. And to get him see, like, I never got to see him do an hour like that. And like, you're just like, there's nothing like this dude. He paid us. He had a book with a bunch of checks in it. And so he paid us. And I remember you're like, just seen a book with checks. Like, I never seen that at that point. Like, I thought you just had a checkbook, but he would, you know, he would have to pay the openers. And so I remember seeing that and I was like, what is that? Like, the whole experience, I was blown away.
You'd never seen a check?
I mean, that point, you know, like I haven't seen anything. Like the fact that you're getting paid, you're like, oh, this is unbelievable.
That's why I like Apple Pay. It's so nice. You can be with your opener and just go, okay, I paid you. Have a good one.
Yeah, that's the best. You know, we're playing poker on the bus and we do Apple Pay just to be like, instead of everybody having cash, you're like, just send it to one person and then you kind of just float the money around.
So you're on a bus and you're doing night after night. You add second shows. So you don't mind doing, back in the day, you did 3 shows. People always ask me that. Yeah, I did it. You don't do it again. Because the third show, no matter what happens, you're going to either repeat something or wish you weren't alive.
Yeah. I know, because you already been there. So like, that's what you're like, a lot of times you'd be there Wednesday, Thursday, 2 shows Friday, 3 shows Saturday. Like at this point, sometimes 3 Fridays, 3 Saturday, whatever it was. So that late chatter, so you're just like, I don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
And they don't know who you are and they don't care.
Yeah.
And you're just, it's a zoo. And you're just trying to get through that hour.
I had so many hell gigs and I talk about them. I played a strip club in Alaska because Jay Leno said, Jerry Seinfeld did it. You should all do it. And I went up there with Kevin Nealon and a guy named Daley Pike, who was a producer writer for Arsenio show. And we went there and we were on in between strippers. What's your hell gig? What would you say? Does one rank up there?
I mean, there's, you know, it's like they all kind of blend in. Like after a while, like you end up, you know, you just got so used to performing with TVs on. You're in some bar in Philadelphia or like New Jersey or Connecticut, and they don't tell people there's a show and there's a big game on. And sometimes they turn the TV off and people are furious. Sometimes they leave it on. I remember doing a show and just watching the game. I'm just like, just saying, no one's listening, and I'm just saying the jokes and watching a game that I could see a TV on across from me. You're just kind of like, blah, 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 blah. Like, there's no reason for me to be up here.
No, you're watching the game.
You're watching the game.
Yeah.
And then doing New Year's Eve shows, like doing a check spot where you have to, so no one knows, but like they hand out checks. So there would be, in New York had a big check spot. You'd want to get to a check spot. That means but no one listens when the checks are dropped. Everybody's paying attention when they pay.
I know. And you have to teach people, once you get to a certain station, stature, you don't drop, this is where you drop checks.
Yes.
You don't turn, the worst one I've had to tell people is you don't turn the house lights up till I've left the stage. Because the lights, you get a standing ovation, the lights come on and everybody goes like this. And then they just start walking out like children of the corn.
And so you got to walk out with them because you're like, well, I got to get back there. And you're like, hey, sorry.
Wait for me, guys.
Yeah. I remember Caroline's, one of the first times they were letting us headline, they did a comedy. They do a comedy thing where it's like when we were coming up. And so they give us like a Wednesday night. And no one showed up, and 12 people, and they canceled the show to me and those 12 people together. We were all in the bar, and they just go, show's canceled, everybody. And I left with the audience. I just walked out with them. And no one knew. Like it just didn't matter. Like,
that's the advantage of anonymity, because I got none. What happens with me is people go, why are you hitting the road like I am? And I'm doing clubs because I'm doing theaters. I mean, this week I'm in a couple theaters at different places, and I'm doing more in 2022. But a lot of theaters closed, and then some were booked up and then finally came back. So I had to do, make up what you're doing, a rain check for a lot of the people. So this is your big tour back. This is How long have you been, when did you really start hitting it with this one? And this is going to go all the way through next year, I'd imagine.
It goes next year. Yeah.
Yeah. And you'll do a new special because you're working new stuff right now, right?
Yeah. So hopefully I'll tape a special next year. And then I don't know, depending on when we do it. And then I'll then have to come up with a new hour. But I kind of look at this as probably going to be the hardest I'll hope maybe ever tour in my life, like these next maybe year or two, where you're doing those added shows, or you got to kind of do everything. You're trying to see what kind of audience that you have, who's coming out. And so this is a very like crunch down, like, yeah, dude, just pile it on. Let's just do it. And then, eventually, hopefully you get to some bigger places. We're going to have to do one show. I would love to get to one show. 2 shows are a lot.
But one show is going to put you into, Sebastian does one show. I mean, it's an event. So
that's what you want. That's what I want. You want to get there. And then I'm not saying, I don't think like if I ever got to arenas, I would like to do it because you want to be like, I got there.
But you're going to, if that's what you want, that's what you're going to do. You're a pure stand-up. You're accessible to everybody. You're funny as hell, and you're not going to screw up,
Yeah, so I'm going to come back to this and be like, bro, you promised me arenas. You promised me.
I'll take the hit if it doesn't happen.
And then I go up and host for you. I'm like, everybody, welcome Bob Saget. Everybody, like I'm back to hosting.
I love how people
that far down.
Yeah, you're gonna go back to just MC. You'll be doing 3 shows everywhere.
Yeah.
In Dubuque.
You take your card back from me. I'm like, God, Bob.
Yeah, please erase my number. I'm gonna change my number when we're done with this. So now your last Netflix special, which is really great. It's the greatest average American.
Yeah.
Which is, you're saying who you are right there, yeah. But you're not an average American.
I mean, I am. My taste, that's why I'm the greatest, though. I am average, but I'm just the greatest at it. And everything I eat, I mean, I just have the taste. I always think I'm good at like when I think a show's going to get canceled, because I know when I lose interest, I think all of America lose interest. I'm just, that's the world that I'm in, is like around us, like, you're
the litmus test for all Americans.
I am. Yes.
So we don't need Nielsen boxes for TV shows.
No.
I don't think they have them anymore, just diaries or whatever. No, they don't have diaries. They have things you punch on the internet.
Yeah.
So but you already know. So what's getting canceled? What do you think? What do we have to not look forward to?
I'm trying to think now. Now it's getting a little bit tougher because I have gotten busier, so I don't get to watch stuff.
Right.
So it's like I try to take that into effect. Like, I'm not the best right now because I just physically do not have the time.
You don't have the bandwidth to binge.
Yes. So I don't get to do it. But
Tiger King has a 2nd season coming up. I'm afraid to watch it. I know that Joe Exotic is a fan of mine. He told his lawyer that he wants me to visit him in prison. And I decided I'm not doing that. But do you think after this season that you haven't seen yet, that there will be a season 3 of Tiger King and we will follow?
I don't. And I don't think this season will be that big of I think they're just seeing what's going to happen, but I don't think it'll be that big of a thing. I haven't clicked on it. The last one I went through super fast. And then this one, you're kind of like, I don't know, man. Like, it's like, I feel like it's going to be, it's like kind of the same thing, but just, it's like, everybody's complaining, just like, well, they did that, then you're like, all right, dude, I'm out. So that's what I believe with Tiger King. I don't think this one will be that big.
Well, you heard it first here. This is going to travel, what you just said.
Yeah, it's going to get around. Yeah, it is, Squid Game. I can't stop thinking about it.
No, I know. Now, some people look at that as pornography, that it's so violent and that we're immune, and that it's like Grand Theft Auto, but times a million, and that it's making younger people completely immune to violence, which we are at that place. I mean, you watch the news and they're showing things. They used to put a disclaimer, you might want to tell your kids not to watch this or may contain sensitive images, but they don't even care. It's a court trial, guys dropping F-bombs, and we're showing footage that no one should be watching on 6 channels.
Yeah. I was thinking that, like, too, about being clean. Like, I like MMA, I like UFC.
Right.
And so, like, I listen to MMA radio, and you're like, it's supposed to be like ESPN, and they're like cursing, and you're like, I can't even listen to this, like, with my, I'm just like driving my daughter, and she's like in the back, and I just want to listen to like Sports Center while I'm driving or something. And then you're like, they're just cursing, and you're like, all right, dude, like, I'm just trying to see, I'm just trying to hear about the next fight. I don't know. You don't have to be just the dirtiest ever.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, there's got to be these things where you're like, just be normal, dude. Like, don't show, the news. I mean, you have to stop it. Your kids walk by. Like, you're like, okay, they can't see this. Like,
I'll tell you what you have to look forward to. Now, I was a comedian doing material about my daughters when they were 10, 11, 12, 16. And I did material about my 16-year-old daughter. Word of advice, be really careful. No matter what it is, as innocuous as it might seem, clear it with her. I wrote a book called Dirty Daddy, which was more about tragedy and how I dealt with it. And I talked to my ex-wife and my oldest daughter about a whole chapter. I sent it to them and I did the rewrite of the chapter because it was about a very difficult birth where I almost lost my ex-wife. And my daughter and my ex-wife said, that's not what happened. That's your perspective. And I went and made the changes because they deserved that. I didn't want to go and speak out of school. But when I did speak out of school, I got a lot of shit. When I was doing my daughter's laundry, I found a thong. And on an HBO special, I said that it was like an eye patch, people missing teeth could floss with it. I did terrible things with this thong and I don't want her wearing it. And it was kind of my version of the dad jokes. And she said, Dad, I got so much shit for you saying that. And I, to this day, feel bad about it. And I talk about my ex-wife now and I talk about my kids, but it's all out of love. It's like you're saying, it's not framed as my wife does this and it just drives me crazy. And I'm not in the mood for negativity right now. Yeah.
It's like if you're picking them apart, it's like, it doesn't, then you have to learn too, like, so I've had some of that with our daughter, like this, I try to, there's not much in this new hour that's really about her, but like some of the stuff is about school or it's, it's like, it's not really honed on her. There's been one that I think she didn't like, and the way I would talk to her about it, I'm like, I'm not making fun of you. I was like, the reason this joke's funny is because all kids do this. But sometimes it's hard for them to realize that they think, they don't know that all kids do this. And they don't realize that it's just for parents, and parents relate to it because their kids are doing the same thing. One is about watching, not to joke about them watching YouTube, like kids YouTube. And so it's like, she would say that. And I mean, I would always like talk with her about it, but I always did that with like my wife. Like she knows the jokes I'm going to do before. And then I do try to show my daughter. It's hard when they're young because you're like, they're not going to get it, but I imagine, when they get 16, you're like, they're just, they're going to be, now they get it.
But and the special ain't going away. It's going to be there.
Yeah. Like, does it disappear? You're like, it's like it will go away. You just tell me, like I'm 35 and it's still here. You go, I don't. It's crazy, right?
The stuff people try to call me out on were things like the Comedy Central roast, where Greg Giraldo was pretty brilliant and hurt my feelings. Said I look like the Vlasic pickle stork with my granny glasses and long beaky nose. And
did those get hard? Like you think. Like it's all fun and it's funny, but I mean, is there a point you're like, golly?
At the beginning, Greg was the first person up. I'm sitting there and I was in pain because I'm going, oh my God, he's right about everything he's saying about me. And then it was really funny because the producer, Joel Gallen, tells the assistant director, would you, and he said it over the essay, over the loudspeaker for the whole audience to hear, tell Bob to make it look like he's having more fun. So 900 people in the studio hear him say that. And I was like, and then all of a sudden I had to be laughing at everything. And they were doing jokes that I didn't particularly care for that were about friends of mine and stuff. Yeah. But that was shown on Comedy Central. It was a dirty roast. So it was on after 11. But now here you go. You got streaming, you got kids watching it on YouTube, and they're 10 and 12 and it's out of context and it's wrong. I think it's wrong of how it got out. There should be copyright that kept it from people because it don't fly with this current culture.
It's like, is that like something that you do then you're like, I regret, I shouldn't have done this? Like, do you regret?
No, I don't regret it.
Like,
I don't regret it. I don't regret doing the Aristocrats because it was about something terrible. And that was
that
about
fit in the content. Like, it would be, if they took that out of context, you're like, well, then
they take it out of context. I should be in prison.
Yeah.
But they don't, you don't hear You don't hear the voices of Penn Jillette and Paul Provenza, the directors, off camera going, Bob, say that, say that. And I'm going, no. And then I'm laughing and going, this is going to hurt my kids on Full House. I can't do this. And it's going to hurt my children. And then you don't hear their voices saying, just say it. We know you, your comedy is, do it. And I had never heard the joke. I heard it once before. So it was like a weird thing, but everything out of context adds up to Aristocrats and the roast. And then one of the thing where I did Opie and Anthony, who were shock jock morning radio people. And you wake up in the morning and you want to say something that burns everybody's eyebrows off to make a point, because you've got Jim Norton in there. And I just did. And I regret certain things. I regret that I didn't like my thing, but you regret things you've done. You've done a TV, but you've done, I don't think you've ever done anything but a successful television appearance. Would that be correct in your mind?
I mean, I could have messed up on my first Conan. I think I messed up, but then they all went good. I mean,
they didn't mess up if you had a second Conan.
Yeah, it was like one of those where you think I went and told him right after, because it was like, when you're on stage, like you haven't talked to anybody yet, even though you've talked to everybody, but you haven't had a private conversation. So right when you get off, if you mess up, you usually tell whoever you see first, you're telling them, you might be like, I peed my pants. It just, whoever walks up is going to get you just like a break. And so Conan came over, and right when he shook my hand, I go, I think I messed that one joke up. And he goes, what? I don't, and he goes, Nate Bargatze, and that was it. It was like the guy I don't need to be telling. And he just was first. And I was like, yeah, I think I messed that joke up. And he's like,
right.
He's like, I don't know, it's one that like no one even noticed, but you noticed in your own head.
Well, you got a great attitude about all of it. And you were Jimmy Fallon's first comedian guest or first guest on the Tonight Show when he went there?
I think I was like maybe third. It was like Seinfeld, I think, then Hannibal, then me or something. And I was one of the last on his late night, because I was with him. We met right when he was about to switch. And so I did like 2 of the late night ones. And then I've done a bunch of Tonight shows. Right. I mean, he's the best too. I like when stuff goes wrong. I think it's funny. And when you look back,
I do too.
You're like, it's hilarious that this stuff doesn't happen. I talked to my wife tonight about I did a gig in Pittsfield, Massachusetts I opened for Tony V. You know, Tony? Yeah. So this was when I first started, and I was getting paid $500 to MC, which was insane. I was like, I never made $500 at that point. And so my wife's with me. We go out. It was at a hotel. We stay at the hotel. I'm a big Vanderbilt fan, college football. Vanderbilt beat Georgia that day. It was This crazy. It was like, we're going to be this awesome night. They paid me $500 cash. Well, I ended up losing that cash. It fell out of my pocket, and we couldn't find it. And so then, of course, me and my wife just get a big fight about it. And I would always be like, you never this is the way I looked at everything. When I did spots in New York, people would argue about money at the beginning. I was like, if this money ever matters to me, then I don't need to be doing this. This $25 can't be what I'm fighting over. Right. So I looked at that with the $500. I don't want to lose that $500, but I was like, if we live a life and we can't ever get past losing $500, then this is not going good. And so I would just be kind of like, all right, well, hopefully the person that found it needed it, and then I can move on, and so I told my wife tonight, if we get in any fight, I go, do you remember that $500? And then see if, just to be like, yeah, because it's like that. It's not about the money. It's like, and that's when comics, when they first start, they get so hung up on, he's just going to give me $20. And you're like, yo, dude, if this $20 can't be what you're going to fight against. Yeah. You would do it for free. I'm not saying that you shouldn't be paying them, but you're like, dude, it just can't be. You're never going to get out of this system if this $20 is all you're worried about.
No, it's about doing the work, and you would do it for nothing. And
you do it for nothing. And then the person's going to realize that. And then they're begging you to come to your show. And then you can say no, because you didn't pay me at $20. But get to the point where you get to turn them down. Don't even let yourself not get to that point, because you're arguing so much about, this.
It's absurd. And it's petty. There's a common comedian's joke when there's a bunch of people that you like, that that you don't get to see, a lot of the headliners that you started with, or just whatever, and you're all doing a benefit. And the common joke is there's 12 people on the benefit. They're all names, and you're on it. And then one of them, who can't help but be a comic, says, so you're making 20 grand for this, right?
Yeah.
And it's always a benefit,
Yeah.
and
I
then
love that.
I fell for that once when I was first introduced to doing these things. I did Comic Relief, which was Billy Crystal, Robin Williams, and Whoopi hosting.
Yeah.
I did it like 5 times. And the first time I got there, it was like, I don't know if Chris Rock said it to me, because we were like a comedy team. He wasn't the Chris Rock at that time. He had been on SNL, and it was just around that time. And they moved us on to some press thing. And they do, Bob and Chris, you go off and do the press. And he goes, what are we, a team? I go, I don't know. This is weird. And then it might be just a name dropping move that he said that, because I don't think he did. I think I just wanted to name drop that I was with Chris Rock.
Yeah, that's
I have to take a fast break, and then we'll finish up, because you got a wife and a daughter, and you got stuff to do.
They're all right behind the computer just asking for dinner. So
do you have commercials on your podcast?
Ads? We read ads.
Okay, so this is one of those. So this is what I'm going to do, what you do, and then we'll take this break.
All right, the holiday season is here, and with it comes the yearly questions of what do I wear to non-ugly sweater parties, and how do I maximize my time savoring holiday moments and minimize my time shopping for gifts? Fear not, weary holiday wanderer. Mack Weldon has all the answers. Whether it's an office party, a party with family and friends, or just a holiday party of you, your couch, and a game on TV, Mack Weldon has all the essentials to keep you stylish and comfortable throughout the season. And their innovative daily wear system has taken the hard work out of outfit planning with pieces designed to work together for any occasion, saving you time and sparing you any extra holiday stress. We're talking top-notch tops, best-selling bottoms, and underwear and accessories that will please even the scroogiest guys on your list. With Mack Weldon, your holiday heavy lifting will be complete in minutes. As something of a stickler when it comes to comfortable sweatpants and sweatshirts, I was initially skeptical when I heard the hype around Mack Weldon's Ace collection. But man, was I proven wrong. Pairing super soft, high-performance fabric with unmatched style, these have become the pieces I live in, whether I'm hanging at home or running errands around the town. This former sweat skeptic has a new outlook. Don't sweat it. Just trust Mack Weldon. For 20% off your first order, visit mackweldon.com/Bob and enter promo code Bob. That's mackweldon.com/Bob. Promo code Bob for 20% off. Mack Weldon. Get it right this holiday season.
And here's another word from one of our sponsors.
Okay, this past year has taught us to savor every moment together. Spend less time prepping and cooking and more time with the people you love with the help of DoorDash. Get what you want to eat right now and right to your door with DoorDash. Along with the restaurants you love, you can now get groceries and other essential items delivered with DoorDash. Get drinks, snacks, and other household items in under an hour. You won't believe this. As soon as I'm done recording this, I am going to order from DoorDash with my wife, and we will agree that I will get what I want and she will get what she wants. And sometimes, yes, we share. And we use DoorDash because it's convenient, it's quick, and they're pretty careful about what they do. And I like giving 5-star ratings. I think that's the highest. Are you craving late night ice cream? You forget that one key ingredient for dinner, or maybe you just need to stock up for the week. With DoorDash, get everything in one app. With over 300,000 partners, you can support your neighborhood go-tos or choose from your favorite national restaurants like Popeyes, Chipotle, and Cheesecake Factory. Ordering is easy, and your items will be left safely outside your door when you choose contactless delivery drop-off. For a limited time, our listeners can get 25% off and 0 delivery fees on their first order of $15 or more when you download the DoorDash app and enter code Saget. That's 25% off up to a $10 value and 0 delivery fees on your first order when you download the DoorDash app in the App Store and enter the code Saget. Don't forget, that's code Saget for 25% off your first order with DoorDash. Subject to change. Terms apply.
Okay, the break's over. That's what I love about podcasts.
Oh, yeah. Do the ads later.
It's all the same stuff. It's, you buy the best meats and you can shave them with these products for men. There's always that.
It all just goes together. Yeah.
Right. Where you do clean ones where it's about clothing and stretch pants for people.
Yeah.
How do you now? You're doing incredibly well, and a person that comes up the way that you have come up can't be taken down from where they're at, because it just can't happen, because you did it the organic way. You built the house of bricks,
That was, something Bill Burr said. I remember told me a long time ago. Because Bill Burr and Patrice O'Neill were very big in my life, because when I just moved to New York, they were probably basically hitting their stride a little bit. And
right.
They became better comics, obviously, but they were like, these dudes are, it's like you first moved there. And people always ask you, like, who's your favorite comic and stuff. You like, at the beginning, it's like, I loved like Seinfeld or whatever, or Cosby, like, way back.
Oh, not recently?
No, just more his recent stuff.
I really like his recent stuff.
Yeah. Oh, did he do comedy a long time ago? No, I've been a big fan just recently of him.
And just like all the laundry bills he's caused people.
But
sorry, I don't want to say that. He's a slime ball. But anyway. Yeah.
No, I think everybody knows.
Oh, they do? Good. I feel better.
I mean, they should. If someone does it, that's the problem. If you don't get the joke, then it's not meant for you.
Then you're in a South Park episode.
Yeah. Then you are the Cosby fan if you're like, I'm just sick of y'all riding this guy so much, So like I saw Patrice and Burr, and they were like coming up, and I remember going to see Burr after O&A. So I was in New York. So O&A, when he did the Philadelphia rant, were you on that? You were on that show. I
would get the sweet spot. I would do a half hour right before the end of the first half. There are only 2 parts.
Yeah.
And so Bill went up like 4th, and he came off stage and thought he bombed. And I was standing next to Jeff Wills from Live Nation. And I said, Bill, this is like the best. This is definable what you just did. It's good. And he was so pissed that night. He was so angry and was mad, and he was in a bad mood. And it was amazing to watch. It was hilarious.
Was it the crowd was like terrible, or like they
were you don't boo people. Yeah. They were, and they had hurt some people. Jimmy Schubert went up and they booed him, real booing. And they booed someone else
too. Like, I mean, it's not like, it's solid comics. Like, you want to go like these dudes, they don't even listen to the show.
No, it was like Philly fans that go to a Flyers game and yell at everybody. Yeah. And I'm from Philly. I lived there a lot, graduated Temple U and all that. So he just called them out on everything bad.
That Cosby, by the way, didn't he go to Temple?
I think he did. Bill got a doctorate from doing 2 years. Only went 2 years of undergrad, and then left and got a doctorate. Then he tried to get a doctorate on his TV show thing. And again, now they did take the doctorate away because he was trying to play doctor.
Yeah.
My God.
I didn't mean
we're giving him much too much press.
No,
But Bill was, and Patrice, I just loved so much. Patrice was on that, and he was in a bad mood. And I stopped a fight with Patrice and somebody. I just got reminded of that. But I love being around them so much. And Bill Burr is an anomaly. Bill Burr he's another one, I'm sure. So there's no way you're not a giant Seinfeld fan, because you can talk about nothing and make it relatable completely, because that's how we live. So who are your influences? Who did you come up going crazy over?
So it was like, when he first got into it, it was like Seinfeld. I remember seeing Sinbad's special for the first time. Or when I was little, my parents showed me that. I saw Jim Brewer. The first live show I went to was Jim Brewer, and it was at Zany's. And that's when you first, nothing about comedy. I'm like a senior in high school. And I mean, he was so funny. And just being there. And that's the point where you think like, I mean, these people must all be famous. You think the host is famous, the middle act they're rich. You think, and then you start comedy, and you're like, I don't know if that guy ate that night. Like he had no money. But you think all this, like, and Brewer jumped off the stage, because Zany's used to have, they didn't, now you can walk into that green room. Right. They used to have it like in the back, I think. So you had to like leave through the crowd. And so he jumped off. I gave him a high five, and I just was like, that's almost like what sold me, where I was like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. And so those were very big. And then I went to, I remember the first time I heard Brian Regan, I heard his album, Brian Regan Live. I was in Chicago.
He's so good.
That was the first I go, how is this guy not the most famous person I've ever heard of?
Yeah.
Like when I first heard it, you were like, well, this is the best thing I've ever heard. And so you're just kind of realize that you're like, you're fans of all these people, but then you're like, oh, there's people that are great that I don't know who they are. And then you move to New York and then you're like, oh, like now you're like, there'd be a guy a year, Kurt Metzger, Big J, Kurt Metzger were, I was very close with him, completely different acts. But like Jay is one of the funniest people I've ever seen in my life. Metzger was like, he was doing jokes that you were like, I remember I was like confused. I was like, this is so good. I started Mike Vecchione, like everybody's so good, Joe DeRosa. And you're like, oh, this is like a different, like everybody's like, it's real different now.
Right.
Like everybody's that good. And then seeing Burr, I gotta watch I went to their HBO one night stand taping, Burr and Patrice. And that was the night I saw Burr. He murdered so hard that you could feel the crowd. When he was done, the crowd was like, what happened? What was that? Like they were just, this dude, you could just see this dude's been saving this 30 minutes up. But it's like, you're going to give, that guy was a headlining comic that you told him, hey, you only got to do 30 minutes. You're like, that's going to be a problem. Like he's going to murder. Like, it's like, like someone told you to go do 25 minutes now. You'd be like, I'm going to murder hard, dude. Like
right.
An hour's you got to figure out, but like half hour, you're like, dude, it's going to be.
That's the resin.
You're like, you don't want to give me that time. Like you're in, like and they gave it to him. And so he just murdered. I remember going to Caroline's and they'd shut the curtain, at Caroline's, they have the curtain to close off if you can't sell enough tickets. And I remember going to watch Burr like that. And then I remember going to try to watch him and they would be like, you can't come in. We're too full. And they would like yell at us and we were never allowed in.
That's called hospitality at Caroline's.
Yeah. They were, it was like, but then eventually then you get good enough that they go, all right, you can come in. And you're like, oh, all right. And you get like stand against the wall and just watch. But Burr was one of the ones, he goes, look, everybody told me, he goes, look, for guys like us, it takes longer, it takes forever, but you're going to gain fans for life and they're never going to leave.
Yeah.
You realize now it's the better way to go. You don't want it to go that way. Another thing that I remember Kurt Metzger said, it takes longer than you want, but faster than you think. And because you're in it and you're going like, when you're doing comedy every night, it feels like you've been doing it for 30 years when you've done it for 7.
Yeah.
And you're just going like, why is everybody getting everything? Why did they get, and there's a lot of that. You got to kind of just be like, go back to just do you. And then your turn, if you're good, your turn will come, and just hope it and just kind of just keep grinding it out, keep getting better. And then eventually you get your turn. And so you kind of just got to wait it out. I always thought you either make it at 20 or 40. No one really makes it in the middle. You either get to come out and be like picked up and you're good, or you got to wait till you're 40 and and then it's earned.
Some people do stand up because they want to get on a sitcom. Some people, they
can't have it. They don't have an act. That's the thing that's scary that I don't want to go away. And so like, if you're a young comic, it's like, just like whatever you get, you're going to get. So everybody wants to make, I'm not saying don't make, if you become famous at 18, I get it. I would have too, like,
right.
But think about an hour act. Try to be able to do a show. You want to be a show. You want them to, when they come see you, like I remember going to watching Louis and you'd be like, it's a show, man. Like this guy is the show. It's like going to watch Nutcracker. Like you're like, this dude's a show.
He's a lot like Nutcracker now.
Yeah.
And I love the guy.
Yeah.
So I actually, people ask me, why don't you just stay in town? You don't have to go kill yourself and go on the road. I can't get it done. I can't go up and do 10 minutes as a drop-in or schedule myself. Some people go up and do an hour. Some people go up and do a half hour. I can't really do that. I don't want to be on a lineup with 15 people. I want to have them specifically coming to see me, and I want to work on what I have to work on. And every show I grow from, there isn't.
You write better on the road. You write faster and better.
I'm just doing it till I got it. And it's going to be the best. I know it's going to be the best special I ever did, because I'm just more I've just seen the grid. It's that Matrix moment, you know, where I could see it.
It's doing it. I mean, doing the road, like when you do spots, spots are good early because they teach you how to like be tight, and you need to learn how to be tight as a comic. But then if you just stay in spot form, you're like, I remember when I was doing first headlining first time I ever did it after New York. And like, I would get tired at 35 minutes. I could feel the audience was tired of me. And it wasn't like I was doing bad, but I was in that rhythm of New York where it's like, bah, just trying to like pound. And I didn't know how to like do a longer set. And so then you're like, oh, it's a different thing. You can still murder the whole time, but you got to learn to like tell it. And then when you write on the road, like the best thing you can do after you tape a special is hit the road super hard.
Right.
And by the time that special comes out, you'll be good because you have so much time up there. You know you can get them. You're not worried about not getting them. So then, you know, when you have 10 minutes, you're like, I got to get these people or it's done. You don't want to bomb. I don't want to go up there and just bomb for 15 minutes.
Or people go to a bunch of shows and see like 15 people and they go, oh, he was good. She was good. Yeah. Oh, he wasn't as good. That's what's wrong with our culture, that we're all here with a popularity. Everything's turned into Star Search or I don't know.
I remember seeing like guys going to alt rooms. Like when I was in New York, there wasn't alt rooms at the very beginning. There was some, but it wasn't as big as it is now. And it's a good thing that these alt rooms came. I think it's actually great. Like,
but you could play an alt room. I'm sure you did play a lot.
Yeah, I could. But that's what I mean. Like I would go see, because then it was like, all right, well, how do you play these rooms? And you know, I would see comics like that was a big reason too. While being clean, I saw people they had to have a lot of different acts, and I was like, well, I don't want to do that. Like I just have one act. Every joke I have, I'm doing right now. I don't have enough. There's not an hour I'm sitting on that no one knows about. Like I'm putting everything out that I can put out. And when I would do my show, I'd be like, well, I want to be able to do this in a comedy club, at a college, at an alt room, or at a, you know, church if I had, like wherever. I should make it work everywhere because I just don't want to create 50 different acts. Maybe I don't do, if I'm in a college, I don't do a ton of marriage stuff. Maybe, you know, it's like you might pull stuff, but like you're trying to keep it all kind of like together, you know.
I think it'd be good to just only do marriage stuff at colleges.
I mean, I do it when the college show goes bad. I get into it. Like when you're up there doing I remember I did a nooner, which if people don't know, it's you do a community college. And since they're not there at night, because they all have kids and they got to go home and get to them, but I went to community college and, you do a show at noon. And I remember I was late. I showed up at 12:01 and the guy goes, you're late. I was like, I was in Chicago. I was like, I'm sorry. And he handed me a microphone. He goes, I'll be back in an hour, and left. And the stage was in the middle of the cafeteria. And so there's no like, hey, everybody, we got a show. You just have to walk up and you're like, hey, I'm a comedian. And then you got to try to win these people over. And they just don't. I mean, I always like to think about the people that were in there that if you told them that a comedy show was going on, they would be like, what? Where? There wasn't a show. They would like have no idea.
Right.
There was a comedy show when I was eating. And you're like, yeah, dude, while you were eating, I was up there talking for 1 hour. And you're like, God, I never even saw it. You're like, I know. How crazy is that?
Yeah, people haven't learned politeness very much either, especially in college.
Well, everybody thinks comedy goes with everything. So they think we're good. You know, it's like a band, music goes with everything. Comedy is very specific. And they're just like, just go in there and do comedy. You're like, yeah, it doesn't work like that.
That's one of the problems with clubs in general is, and some theaters is some audiences just don't give a crap, or they come in drunk or they're on drugs or whatever. And they're on drugs. I sound like I'm 90, get off my lawn. But they think they respond as though they're in a movie talking, they're that person, or they're at a music show. And I just have had to address it sometimes. Do you ever, because you're such a nice centered person on stage, do you ever get people that are rude?
Yeah. We just had, so rock venues are tough sometimes when they have the bar in the theater.
Right.
And it's like
a hard rock or a house of blues or.
Yeah, it works for music. For comedy, it's pretty tough because you need people to listen. And it's hard for people not to get by that bar and be like, hey, can I get, like, they feel kind of disconnected. And so rock venues can be a little tough. They're just seem a little like there's a lot more talking. Like I just tend to talk over it. I don't like ever really talk to the crowd. Again, I don't want to, yeah, you know, you don't want to yell at someone. I remember I saw Brian Regan, like someone was drunk in front of him once, and he was like, man, he's like, maybe you should just go out in the lobby and like get a drink of water. Like, it was very nice. He wasn't like, you idiot. Like, just, it was, so you kind of like, I like that. But I did LA, Ace Theater 2 weeks ago or something. And this lady in the front was so drunk and just like talking to me nonstop. And then, you know, you have people are fans of you now, so they're excited, and they, you know, so you don't want to like, you're ruining the show for everybody. Yeah. And like her, like I just try to handle it. You know, it's like I had to address it. Usually I just talk over them, and that's enough to kind of be like, hey, this isn't like a back and forth, and then they usually will calm down. But like something like that, if someone's super drunk, you just end up having to address it. And I mean, no one cares. You know, in the audience like claps and stuff. You always just feel so bad for the person. You're like, I know you don't want to be this person right now, or I hope you don't want to be. Yeah. But you're kind of are being this person. You know, you're just kind of trying to like, you know, let's try to. You want someone to go get them. But
have you ever had to throw anybody out?
I don't think I've ever I mean, I think there's been
not you, but I mean, have you had someone removed?
People have been drunk. I've never done it where I said that girl. I looked side stage to see if my tour manager was there. Wasn't there, doing something just in the back room. Like I was still alone. I like looked to the side to be like kind of like hoping to be like, hey, you need to get someone like at least go check on this lady and like see. And I just looked to the left, no one's there, and I was like, I'm just alone now. And like you know, and
I've had. Go ahead.
No, that was it. Like I remember afterwards, he's like, "Oh, was there a problem?" I was like, "Yeah, dude, what?" And he doesn't know how to be a tour manager yet. I mean, he's doing really good. But I'm like, right. Yeah, these are one of the things that I kind of when I need you really bad.
Exactly when you need him.
Yeah. If it's your buddy that you've known for 14, he's like, "You're all right, dude. I think it went great."
That's why I have no one from my past working behind the curtains. I've had to say to people, and I still say it now because I have a parental thing going. Because of me, because of who I am and how old I am and stuff. And they have a relationship with me that way where they're wearing my shirt, things with me on them, and they have tattoos of me, and they're so excited to see me, and they pierced a picture of me on their nose. I don't know what they've done. And they keep talking. They can't believe they're seeing me. And they are ruining the show for people. And I always, no matter who they are, if they're not mad at me, no one's ever mad at all. They're all nice. But I go, I don't want them to take you out. Please, I want you to stay. So can you stop? And then I, like every 15 minutes, I'll have to look over and go, you know, or zip it or something. Yeah. So I'm like, I have like a plate I'm spinning where I'm trying to parent someone. Yeah. I'm parenting people. They don't have parents. Yeah, they don't have a role model. Yeah. So
you got to be that role model for them. You got to go, hey, this is maybe go sit next to them and go, not how we do it. You know, I raised you better than this. I thought.
Play the synthesizer music from Full House and just sit down on the edge of the bed.
Yeah. Hey, how's it going? Like, you know, it's tough. You don't want to, because that's always hard. The hard part is too, when someone's talking up front, because the people in the back can't hear. So you can like just lose it on a woman. I mean, I've had it where I've had like during comedy clubs. And again, when no one knows you, where you had to lose it on some woman up front, but then you don't, like, you're supposed to say that they're talking so everybody knows what's happening, because otherwise they can't hear in the back. They can't hear that lady just talking in the front. So you just snap on this woman. Yeah. And everybody's like, all right, dude, take it easy. You're like, no, she's been the worst. That's like the guy that the video where the guy hits the guy with the guitar.
Yeah. That's pretty upsetting.
That's my favorite video. That's the perfect video of comedy. Is just like he goes, folks, you saw him coming right at me, right? And then everybody's like, no. And you're like, all right.
What's sad is he toured with that and he did it every night.
That's
his finish.
You ever know who that guy was, or?
No. No.
It was just a road act. Like.
Yeah. And I don't think he did a lot after that.
Dude, it's.
The audience says to him on the tape, you were wrong.
You were wrong. Yeah. It's almost the perfect video. If someone's like, well, what's it like being a stand-up comedian? And you show them that video and go, it's trying to find this line. Here's a guy that thought he found the line. And then you learn, oh, I guess I was over the line. And you gotta, And you got to figure out, well, how do you not get to that point? But it's the chaos that guy, in that guy's head, he was like, well, I got to hit this guy with my guitar. So
that was rage. That was just pure rage. That's something his dad did to him, probably, except it wasn't. It was probably a baseball bat, something friendly. But that's weird too, because then you think, a lot of comedians do the jokes about I killed, I crushed, all these things. This guy took it literal. That's like literal the punchline. He has to kill, he has to crush.
He almost legitimately murdered.
Right. There was a comedian, but talk about stuff that doesn't work anymore. I think it was a Catch a Rising Star, and it was pre 9/11, but there was terrorism, and he was, I believe, an Indian comedian, and didn't, and it was a very racial thing. He came up with a raincoat on and opened up his coat. First, he says, "I'm going to kill tonight," and opened up his raincoat, and it had a big bomb strapped to his chest. And that was his opening. And I thought, talk about a mistake. That doesn't even work if you get canceled for that behavior.
Just I'd like to think that he's like, I tried closing with it, but dude, it's so hard to wear that stuff for 50 minutes.
Like, it hurts my back.
It hurts my back. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just come out the gate and just hit them up top and let them. I don't know how you follow that.
You don't follow that. You actually follow up by making fun of it and also saying that it's inappropriate what he did, moving humanity forward. And, hey, let's hear it again for a guy we'll never hear from.
Yeah. But, and he's like, anyway, parallel parking is the worst. And he gets into normal observational jokes. He's got one edgy thing.
I'm a bad driver because I'm wearing a bomb.
I like just the idea that he has to go there wearing that. And like when does he put it on? Does he have it on?
I think it's in a backpack, and then he takes it out and puts it on. I don't think he wants it.
Everything's not good.
Like, right.
Where did you get it? He goes, I bring it in a backpack. I don't wear it in. You're like, again, this is the where's that before that? In the trunk of my car. What's the problem? I made it in my apartment alone last night.
This is a prop machine gun. What's your problem?
Yeah. Why are y'all being weird about this?
So here's my question. Do you want to, you're so good at this. Do you want to have that Jerry Seinfeld, Larry David thing where you executive produce a show and you use it from the mind of you? You're about to do a movie. I know.
Yeah.
According to IMDb, it says you have a television movie that you're doing.
I don't know. That's not
you better
true.
get to IMDb and have it taken down.
Yeah. Or maybe have a movie. I'm like, maybe that's right now. They're all sitting on set and they're like, where is he? I'm like, I'm just at home talking to you.
It says it's in production or something, or I don't know.
We filmed a pilot and for ABC, but it didn't go. And that was like right before COVID. And that's the only thing I made. I've sold a lot. I've sold a lot of scripts. I've only made one pilot. And so I was starting with like, first was Fallon, and we did, he wanted to do the Letterman, Ray Romano kind of thing. And so we kind of did that. I had to do multicams a ton. And they just never, you do them and they never went. And I love multicams. I still like multicams. You're like, why are they're the most popular shows still now? Like people, all the old ones people are watching, they hold up. And so I love the world of multicam, but it's like, the people that are buying it, they think they want it. And I don't think they want it. Like they tell you, no, we do want one because it's cheaper to make and all this. And then you're like, well, you're not watching them. You're going home and watching these other things. So then like we make it and then you're like, it doesn't feel right. You're like, yeah, dude, it's not for you. Like it's for like, I watch multicams that we grew up watching multicams.
It's a familiarity. I mean, you're talking about Lucy. You're talking about, Dick Van Dyke. You're talking about major shows. I mean,
all those could be still watched today. Was Andy Griffith's shot? That was probably single camera.
That was single cam.
Yeah, that's crazy, right? Was that one of the first single camera shows?
No, there were a lot of them. The half-hour show format, there was single cameras, My Three Sons, Leave It to Beaver.
But Andy Griffith was like the 50s, right?
Yeah, but Leave It to Beaver was, and My Three Sons was like, I thought the 50s, might have been the 60s.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you're going to call a show Leave It to Beaver, even you have to go, I'm not letting my kid watch that.
Now you couldn't. I mean, like that's just crazy. Like back then you could. And now you'd be like, I don't even, no. Let me watch it first. Like, you know,
And it's just a little boy's name.
yeah,
It's not even any, it's so nothing.
yeah, it's not, it's a good name for a kid.
But you could create a show. I'm just saying you're such a great brain, but that's not where your energy is right now, right?
No, we are. So I am trying that now. And so we're trying to write.
I read one that you're going back to your roots in Nashville. Is that the pilot?
Yeah, kind of that. Like, yeah. So it's like we have an idea now that we're writing. It's with Phil Rosenthal and
I love Phil. He's a dear friend.
Oh yeah, he's the best.
So you're eating good food.
We're eating, yeah. We're eating real good food. All he talks about, like, he comes over, we go to his house, and he's like, all right, I'm gonna send you stuff food. And I'm like the worst with food, and I'm like, I don't like tomatoes and onions and stuff. And I'm like,
I don't either.
Oh yeah. I want to start. You want to start a restaurant with me called No Tomatoes, No Onions?
That's what it's called.
Any of it? Yeah, that's what it's called.
Tomatoes are acid. They eat through my stomach and they come out my pant leg. It's bad.
Well, no onions too, because then I just want people to come in and they don't have to say they don't want one of those things. If they go no onions, I go, come on, that's the name of the place. We don't need be crazy. We're not gonna have onions in there.
And what's the first thing you ask for when you go there? That's the joke. You ask for onions. You have to.
You have to. Yeah, I mean everybody comes in.
So Phil's working on doing his Ray Romano magic with you. Is that kind of the idea?
Yeah, but this is single cam. It's kind of a different idea. Like I don't want to say the idea.
Don't.
But it's like it's a different kind of idea. Like the idea would be to shoot it in Nashville. I mean, I am fortunate now to be in a position that like the touring is going great. All this stuff's going great. So you're really like, all right, I'm gonna make the thing that I've always wanted to make, and I can do it without the freedom of being like, not everything rides on this. Like it's and so I am trying that. I would love to. I want to just get something on. I want to, like, I've never really done acting. I did auditions, but like I'm always have to be me. I don't know how to not be me. So
right.
I always tell people I can't not do this accent. So if you either want this accent or you don't. And that's where the line's drawn. Like I can't not do it. So
no, you're never gonna play a Russian killer.
Yeah, like it's like, yeah, they'd be like, I would do auditions, and I remember I'd always get like callbacks because I think I was just so different that they're like, yeah, let me see him again. And then I would come in. I did one, and like I had my gray hair, and they're like, I think if you dyed your hair, you'd be younger. And I come in just with this hair again, and I think they wanted me to dye it for the audition. And I was like, oh, I thought you meant like, well, if you get it, like I would do. Like, why would I gotta dye my hair just for you to tell me no?
Welcome to show business.
I know that. So that was the little stuff that I didn't get. That I was like, I didn't understand that you were supposed to, you're a comic. So you think like, no, I'll just be me, right? Like you don't know that you're supposed to. Then you see other people and they're like, they're dressed as the character and like they're doing this stuff. And you're like, well, I'm not committing to it. Like I don't deserve.
That's what's great about you, the purity of it. They know what the audience is going to get you.
Yeah. And that's all I can do. So I know my limitations.
No, that's not all. That's a lot. Because you're a special guy. So yeah. I want to thank you for doing my podcast and having a conversation with me.
I'm just so glad to get to talk to you for this long. And, so it's, I mean, we do it here, but when I get to see you in person, it'll be, I've been a giant fan, obviously, like everybody tells you, but
thanks,
forever.
Man.
And I think you've been you. I think you look the same this whole time too, by the way.
Well, that's nice. I gained weight a little bit over.
I do think that. I definitely think you've gotten fatter. And
it's really nice. Let's use that clip.
Talk about that.
That's one of our assets. That'll be definitely the clip. What happened is I went through a bunch of stuff emotional like 5 years ago. So if you Google me, sometimes I look like the Great Pumpkin and sometimes I look like I'm going to die of anorexia. So yeah. There's definitely something going on that parallels my diet to my mental state, but you think you're heavy, which is ridiculous. And you also say you're always
lost
thinking
weight
about
now. At the beginning was bad. Like I was just, you just were like, you're just like, I was like bloated for the first 10 years of my comedy career.
Right.
You're just like drinking, eating McDonald's every night. You're out till 5 a.m. There's no rules. You're in New York, nothing closes. There's no one telling you to go home. You're like, you can't live like this. Like, and so you eventually
you die like that. That's what happens to a lot of people.
Yeah. I don't drink anymore. And it's like, cause it was like, I just knew, I knew if I wanted to get to where I wanted to get, I was like, you can't, drinking is in the way. And then, so you
can't even, you have to go through a whole procedure to not be hungover the next day. It can't happen.
Yeah. Part of it too, you get older and then you're, I'm 40, being 42 now. I mean, I'm still having it with my dad. Like, I still like ate McDonald's this weekend. Like I love McDonald's so much. And I drink a lot of Diet Coke. So I remember I talked to someone.
I like that too, because it's the only thing that'll eat the McDonald's.
Yeah.
It's the only thing that will dissolve it like battery acid would. It dissolves a Big Mac.
Oh, it's the best. There's nothing, you know, they have the best soda in the world, like McDonald's. They do something a little different. And that's why their sodas taste better than anywhere.
I was driving with my wife and I said, I don't want to. Oh, no, I wasn't with my wife. I was with Mike Young, my opener. Damn it. That's not going to go well when she hears that. And we were coming back from a gig.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, honey. He had a wig on. He had a blonde wig on, so he looked like it. But no, what happened was I was hungry. He was hungry. You don't want to eat at night, but you're hungry. You did your show. And McDonald's is coming up. I haven't eaten McDonald's in, I guess, 20 years, 15 years. I don't know. And I said, do you want to stop there? He says, why? And get the best French fries that have ever existed.
Yeah.
And I went, are they? I mean, I used to remember them not being the best. Are they?
They're the best, dude. There's no one's like them. They're in a league of their own.
Is that true?
I have a joke about McDonald's. Like, I think we should go in there and show them more respect. They're the most successful restaurant that's on earth. Like, you should walk in there in a tuxedo and be like, it's an honor you even open the door. Like, we go in there like bums and be like, I don't know how I should eat it. You're like, they're crushing it, dude. Like, they're doing so great. So tip your hat. There's a point, you can't eat that stuff, obviously, but people tend to think like they would make fun of you for going to McDonald's and then they go have a burger at like some food truck. And you're like, what's the difference, dude? Like, that guy's made that, you got to trust that guy made that meat. It wasn't in his back of his car all night. Like, you got these food trucks, like people think they're doing like this big thing. Like, it's a food truck. You're like, I got to eat the meat out of a Honda Accord that sat out on the street last night. And that's better than McDonald's.
And after I give you this burger, you want to buy a pair of pants?
Yeah, he sells everything. He has everything.
I have to ask you real quick, because I've always had my last name tortured, and it wasn't good because it rhymed with stuff. It was rough being me. Did you go through any name stuff ever? Do people mispronounce your name anywhere important?
Oh yeah. So we say it Bargatze, and I honestly think we say it wrong as a family. I think our southernness have just kind of changed it. And so, like in New York, everybody would say Bargatze, like Bargatze. So a lot of people say Bargatze. That's how it's spelled, Bargatze. And so a lot of people say it like that. But you know, so I answered. I answer to whatever. I'm not like ever offended by if someone says my name wrong. It's like you just get so used to it that you're like, I don't care. But now it's like people say either Bargatze or they say Bargatze. And so I feel like we've got it down to two. And you're like, if you can just be in those two,
that's fine. That's
how you want to say it. I'm fine either way. I get called Nick a lot too, for some reason. So it's funny people get my last name right. And I think they're thinking about that so much. They're like, Nick Bargatze. And I'm like, yeah, I'll just go. I'm like, yeah, you know, you're in the ballpark. I'm going to turn around. That's how I do it. I do everything. Would I turn around? I'm definitely going to turn around if I hear that. I'll be like, that guy's probably talking to me.
Now, is Bargatze Italian?
Yeah, I'm like starting to figure out that's what I'm planning to do for like the next hours, like to like dive into like where like our family came from.
You're going to do 23andMe? You're going to do that?
No, I was in Salt Lake City and they have a family center. They're really big about they have it where they look into they can find attachments to everything. And it's a little bit more. I did 23andMe. Hilariously, we are Italian. It came back 0.0% Italian. And I told my cousin that, who's older, and he goes, well, they don't know what they're talking about. So that's where we were at.
My family tree is completely wrong. They're out of their minds. They were like saying the crest of arms for the Saget family, but it was Saget and Zoget because everybody was running for their lives. So none of the names stayed the same. So basically anybody in my lineage was slaughtered by either Russians or Germans. That's what happened in those last couple hundred years. So I'm sorry.
The first that got to stand your ground. You're like,
but they made us some regal family and everybody was just slaughtered.
Yeah, just go. Yeah, those things like this family centered thing is like I think I can't remember exactly what it's called. There's one, the main one is in Salt Lake City, and Mormons are, I think it's very much about their family and like where they came
Well, they
from.
want to make sure that they're not marrying a sister,
Yeah,
and that one of their wives isn't family somehow.
well, so when you do it, they have a cool thing with the app. You can put like who's related around you, and I mean, I was in there, and you're like, the guy that helped me is my 10th cousin, because everybody's going to be related kind of in a way somehow.
I think everybody is, if you go back far enough. I mean,
oh yeah, the craziest was there's only two people that had no relation to me, and you're like, well, how talk to them? How are we not like, why is it so? Where'd you come from? That but our family's like, so it was. I think they are Italian, but they lived in Switzerland. The lower part of Switzerland had a lot of Italians in it.
oh, that's a good part.
Yeah. So we're not like we're not doing spaghetti. I don't like big tomato chunks in my spaghetti.
That's where the intellect came from. You got that Swedish blood in there.
Oh man.
And you're peaceful. Do you do Zen stuff? Do you meditate? I'm letting you go.
I just started doing meditation. I never liked it. I thought it was weird. And I would always get real weird about that stuff if comics talked about it, because I'd be like no one's meditating, dude. Like, so I don't ever talk about it, but I just started doing it, like that Calm app a little bit. I did it more so just because sometimes you don't get to take a nap, and you're like, it's just nice to like kind of like check out for a second.
Yeah.
Try to be like, because it can only be 10 minutes, and then you kind of come out and you're kind of refreshed. So
that
I'm
works.
doing a little bit there.
Before a show, it especially works when you don't have time.
Yeah, that's when I do it.
When you get somewhere, you put all your clothes away, even though you don't have to.
Yeah.
And then you lay down, and I'll do it laying.
Yeah.
I never got that right. And I'll just close my eyes, and then I'll set a clock so I don't do anything weird, which I never have because I can barely sleep. And that 20 minutes is like, you got to have your brain. You can't do this and not have your brain.
You got to zone out. Like I would do that. And so then I started like listening to that Calm out, because like, well, let me see what it is. Because I was like, I bet I'm already kind of doing it. When you do those, like, it's like those power naps where you're not really asleep. You can kind of hear everything.
Right. Twilight thing.
You feel better there than you ever do after a nap. I mean,
but the Calm is an app, right?
The Calm is an app. Yeah.
Now, is that the one where voices talk to you and tell you to calm down?
They tell you, like, I'm going through, like, I don't know how to meditate. So there's like a 30-day thing where they kind of teach you how to meditate. And
you should own this. You should be a partner now. You're promoting it.
I mean, it's a big thing. They have LeBron James, so they're doing all right.
Well, I actually used the app that Rick James used, and that did not help me sleep at all.
That was the opposite.
Yeah, it's the opposite.
Like, dude, I'm like worked up today for some reason. You just always,
I don't know why
like,
I want to
take it down a bit. You go, I don't know what's going on, dude.
I just smoked 90 cigarettes. I looked at, I just have to leave with this because I am, my wife is waiting. Your wife is waiting. We have, we're lucky that someone's waiting.
Oh, yeah, it's crazy.
But I went and bought that app, I believe. And I looked on Instagram, like it had all hypnotic shapes. And I went, oh, I like that. Or I don't know what it's called, but it takes you into it. I went, oh, this is going to hypnotize me. It's going to put me to bed. I'll just look at it. And they tell you the last thing you should look at before you go to bed is your phone. And then, I'm going to look at the phone and I'll get hypnotized. Then I bought it. And then it was all voices that sounded like my ex-mother-in-law and my exes just going, now go to sleep, lay there quietly. I don't know. I must have chosen the wrong voices.
You picked like too close to home.
I don't know how it happened. They must have just summed me up. What puts me to bed? Now go to bed.
That is true. You probably are like, no, I need other voices. Like you can't.
Yeah.
But the people recording those voices are all probably they're in the North, or they're in New York, LA. So they could sound like, you need to be like, no, I want a Southern only.
Right.
You want me to make one for you? I'll do
You have a very soothing voice. That's basically, I think we're going to gain from this.
That's what
Would you make your voice, record it, and I'll just put it on my phone and go, Bob.
I'll just call you and do it.
I think that's nice. You got the number.
Yeah. I got the number. So
you'll start putting me to bed after you did 2 shows
you
that
call
night.
me and you're like, all right, I'm ready. I go, I'm ready too. I just talk to you.
This leads to something wrong. Well, Nate, I can't thank you enough. Be safe out there. Have a great time. You're gonna make a lot of people happy, and
Thanks,
and bring people together. And And I love this, and wishing you and your beautiful family happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, you too, man. And I can't wait to when I get to see you in person.
I can't wait to eat McDonald's and not have alcohol with you.
Oh, I'll take you to McDonald's.
We'll do McDonald's. No onions, though. We got to talk to them.
I'll talk to them. I know how.
You do it all. You do the sleep tape for me, and you'll make the orders at McDonald's.
Yeah, don't even. I got you, dude.
I don't even need a wife anymore.
Just get in the car, dude. And I'm like, you're gonna be along for the. And trust me, this year after this McDonald's, you're gonna sleep real nice.
Puts you to bed, does it? Well, say hi to your tour manager and tell him to stop hitting on people while he's supposed to be looking at the audience.
Yeah, I will. That's the only problem.
Awesome. Take it easy, man. I'll be talking to you.
See you, man.
Thank you. Nate Bargatze. Nate Bargatze. Damn, he is such a wonderful guy, and you got to see his stand-up. You got to watch his specials. The Greatest Average American on Netflix is out right now. You got to see this thing. It's just, he's just great. He calms me, and he's funny as hell. And yes, he's clean, which is a great thing. And you heard why, which I admire and just love him for it. Also want to watch The Tennessee Kid, which is another Netflix special, which is just fantastic. Go to natebargatze.com and you can catch his tour, and you can listen to the Nate Land podcast. That's what it is. It's the Nate Land podcast, but you want to see him on tour. He's all over the place. Get out there, bring your family, bring anybody. It's just, he speaks to everyone, and he's such a sweetheart, and he's a total pro and a good man. So, and above all being a good man, he's funny. So very honored to have Nate Bargatze on the, and Nick, his twin brother, on the show. So you know what to do. You rate, review, you subscribe. You can go to the YouTube page and watch us in a 2-shot for the entire thing. How long was this? Almost 2 hours. So 1 hour and 40, you get to just watch a 2-shot of guys discussing just being on tour and gigs. I think that's good. I enjoyed it a lot. You go to youtube.com/Bob Saget. Go to my website, bobsaget.com, find out where I'm on tour. I'll be doing it until I shoot a special. And then I think he's right. I think Nate's right. I will be out on tour even harder as soon as I shoot that special. That's my plan. I'm loving the hell out of it. Hope to see you guys out there, and go see Nate. If Nate and I are playing the same night, I might have to cancel the show to go watch Nate. That was Nate Bargatze. You guys take care of yourselves. Wishing you a pre-happy holidays and a safe and a happy new year and a healthy one. All right. Lots of love.